The story of the hero's journey has appeared in every human culture around the world and throughout centuries, even among civilizations that have not talked to each other or ever met. Maybe one of us will be the next one to stand up when we need to, become that elusive hero when needed. We live in the future our grandparents only dreamed about when they were young. We live in a world where we can talk to or see pretty much anybody across the world with the touch of a button. We live in a world where robots vacuum our homes, where our cars park themselves. We live in a world where we can look up a topic and learn about it in a fraction of a second. We live in a world where artificial intelligence can write for us, can draw for us, can screen our phone calls, order our groceries, make our appointments, and solve our problems, and do our tasks faster than we can do ourselves. Yet, we remain connected to our humanity in a way that has lasted through centuries and spanned the globe. This connection is stories, the myths that we crave and that we share and that we preserve. Human beings, since the dawn of humanity, have created myths to address issues that are essential to understanding our existence. And they typically focus on 3 different topics. And all of these we address in English 122, which is Introduction to World Mythology. The first topic typically addressed by mythology is how the universe or the earth was created, and by whom and why. The second topic is how humans were created and for what purpose. The third topic involves the hero story, the story of how an ordinary human being can go from just a basic normal life to achieve heroic feats and make the world better for others, often at a cost for themselves. The story of the hero's journey has appeared in every human culture around the world and throughout centuries, even among civilizations that have not talked to each other or ever met. Among the first recorded hero myth is the story of Gilgamesh, a story originally carved into stone tablets. But the hero story also appears with the Ramayana in India, with Sigurd the Volsung in Northern Europe, with King Arthur in England and France, with Beowulf in England and Scandinavia, with Quetzalcoatl in the Aztec Empire, with Bacharjan in Mali, with Jason in Greece and Aeneas in Rome, as well as 2 heroes I'm going to share with you today, Hercules, which you may know as Hercules, and Qi Li from China. The hero's journey is called the hero monomyth, and it was consistently included 3 stages that a hero goes through on their journey. These plot lines are the same pretty much in every single hero story that we have. Minor details and setting changes and so forth. And they can be seen in our hero stories of today, including stories like Harry Potter, The Hobbit, and Lord of the Rings, Batman, Spider-Man, Superman, Wonder Woman, and even Luke Skywalker, among lots of other ones. In 1949, Joseph Campbell researched thousands of hero myths from around the world, and he found that they all follow a basic plot line. And he shared that plot line, the hero monomyth, in his book entitled The Hero of a Thousand Faces. And this is great because we still see it today in our movies, in our books, and our comics. The first stage of the hero's journey involves the departure. This is usually beginning when a hero is called to adventure. Typically, the hero first refuses the call, doesn't want to do it. Again, going back to that fact that they're just an ordinary person. But typically, somebody convinces them to go. Usually, it is a supernatural being or a mentor of some kind that encourages them to go. They finally decide to go. That phase, that stage 1 ends when they depart from their home, their safe, comfortable home, and they depart for an unknown place. And that unfamiliarity starts stage 2, which is the road of trials. During the road of trials, the hero will face lots of challenges and will develop lots of skills. They'll meet lots of allies and they'll meet enemies as well. Sometimes during the road of trials, there'll be a woman, a female goddess, or a woman with supernatural powers who may try to help the hero or hinder the hero. Often there's a father figure that appears in the story as well. And this stage, that road of trials, culminates in a supreme ordeal that promises a reward to the hero. The third and final stage of the hero's journey is the return home. And the return home can be a challenge because the hero has changed. They can go home to face rewards, Or they could go home to face yet another challenge where they have to defeat another gatekeeper and they have to become reborn in some way. Again, this plot line follows just about every hero story that we have. Now, the hero's journey plotline can be seen vividly in the story of Hercules, or Hercules, as the Romans called him. He was an interesting hero. He was actually the most popular of the Greek heroes, and he did not care about immortality. He did not care about glory. He didn't care about any of that. But wherever he went, and he ended up traveling far distances, he made life better for people. And his achievements were his own. He had very little help from the gods and some hindrances from them. So he went off and he did these things, and he did it really to make life better for people and because he basically felt forced into it. Now, as many heroes do, Hercules has had an unusual birth. He is the son of Zeus and a mortal woman. And if anyone has one mortal parent, you're mortal. So because his mother was mortal, he was mortal. He was born with superhuman strength, though. And Zeus, his father, was so proud of him that he wanted to have Hercules on Mount Olympus with him to live with the other Greek gods. But Zeus's wife Hera was not so happy. She was very angry that Zeus had this son with another woman. She hated Hercules from his birth and tried to kill him. Initially, she sent in 2 large serpents into his crib to try to kill him. And Hercules grabbed both of them with his superhuman strength and shook them and strangled them and killed them, not realizing they were sent there to kill him. And Zeus realized that Hera was very angry about Hercules. So what he did was he promised Hera that he would not give Hercules immortality unless he performed challenges or labors. So when Hercules became an adult, the king commanded him to perform labors or challenges that were quite intense, thereby achieving immortality. But Hercules didn't care about immortality at all, and he did not respect the king not one bit. So he said, I'm not doing it. I have no interest in that. Hera was very angry. So what she did was she put a spell on him. And in this fugue state, he ended up killing his beloved children. And when he came to it, he was surrounded by this intense grief and regret. He didn't know what to do. So he went to the Oracle of Delphi and he said, how can I get absolved of this horrible crime? And so she recommended that he actually perform the labors. So, to show his regret and to sort of give him some feeling of absolution, he agreed to do them. Thus, he begins his road of trials, the second stage. And when he gets to his road of trials, believe me, his trials were many. First, he had to kill the giant lion of Nemea. And this lion could not be killed by any weapons in existence. Hercules followed the lion into a cave with 2 entrances. He went to one entrance and he barricaded it, thus trapping the lion inside. Remember his superhuman strength. He grabs the lion and strangles the lion, this giant lion, to death. But he also said, you know what? I've got lots more challenges ahead. So he takes the lion's fur, which remember is impervious to weapons, and kept that for future challenges, just in case he would need it. He shows that he's not all brawn and no brains. He's actually really intelligent. He uses critical thinking to assess a challenge and to find a solution. His second labor was to kill the Hydra of Lerna. Now, the Hydra had 9 snake-like heads, and the middle head was immortal. And so Hercules had to kill this creature. So at first he decides, I'm going to cut off each head. But what he found was as he cut off one head, 2 more grew back in its place. So he took a step back. He's like, how am I going to do this? Again, he's smart. So what he did was he heated a log until white hot. And then he cut off one of the heads and then seared the wound and sealed it before another one could grow back. Then he took the middle head, which was immortal, and he buried it deep in the ground and put a boulder over it, cut the rest of the body up, thus accomplishing his goal. But before he left, again, showing his thinking, he decided to dip his arrows into the Hydra's poisonous blood and keep them for future challenges so that he wouldn't have to worry about being a victim in the future. So all of this happens. He goes on to do lots more challenges and to actually do them successfully. He had to chase a swift deer with golden horns, a wild bull, a dangerous boar. He had to recapture a whole group of red precious cattle. And all the times he's doing this, he went out of his way not to hurt or harm the animal if possible. In one instance, he had to go and deal with the Stymphalian birds that were chasing around the farmers that were of this orchard. Now, the Stymphalian birds were interesting because their feathers were sharp as arrows, and they would fall out of the birds and potentially injure or kill people. So what Hercules did was he took the bronze rattle of Athena and he shook it really hard, and the sound was so jarring that the birds all flew away and abandoned the area, thus making the area safe for the farmers to return to their orchards. He also had to clean out the stables of King Aegeus. And it was interesting because his own king sent him to do this because the stables had not been cleaned in many, many years and were filled with manure. So Hercules was angry because, first of all, he had self-respect, didn't want to go wading into piles of manure. He also felt that the king did this to humiliate him. So instead of cleaning this by hand, what he decided to do was take his superhuman strength, change around some boulders, and divert the river so they actually flowed through the stables and cleaned it all. Thus, again, completing a challenge with his respect and his health still intact. On his road of trials, he made life better for other people. Not only did he make life better for the farmers in their orchards with the Stymphalian birds, but he was on his way to do another challenge with King Diomedes and his horses, and he ran into an old friend. And when he met his old friend, it was a dear close friend of his, he realized the man's wife had died. So Hercules said, you know what I'm going to do? He wrestled death himself. And when he won that contest, he had the man's wife restored to him, thus making him happy along his journey. Now, all the while, Hera was getting more and more angry, right? Because here he is, challenge after challenge after challenge, and he's surviving and successful. And so she kept adding more and more challenges to that list of 10, which quickly became 12, because she found loopholes. She said, wait a second, he didn't really do this way. So she would add on more and more challenges because she didn't want him to survive. As his final challenge, the king sent him to the underworld, to Hades, who governed the underworld. And he had to go into the underworld, take Cerberus, which was a monstrous dog, and return it to the king. So what Hercules did was he went to the underworld and he decided to ask Hades if he could borrow Cerberus. He goes, okay, sure, no problem. But he slyly said, you can only do it if you use your bare hands and no weapons or equipment. Now, that doesn't sound like too bad, right? Except that Cerberus was a huge dog and he was incredibly strong. He had 3 heads and his back was covered in snakes and his tail was as sharp as a dragon's tail. So how was he going to do this? Well, remember the Lion of Nemea? He covered himself in the fur and he went up to the Cerberus and he grabbed him with his bare hands and he carried him up to the king and brought him back to the underworld unharmed. All of this was successful, and he finishes his road of trials successfully. So he goes home, but guess what? He's not going to have a quiet life when he goes home. And Hera was furious at this point because he's finished all of his labors that she could come up with. So what she does is she goes back, and Heracles was headed home, and Hera gives Heracles' wife a tunic. It says, I know that Heracles would really love this gift. She's so happy. She gives Heracles the shirt, the tunic when he comes home. He puts it on immediately because he's so happy to be home and he wants to show her that he's happy. He puts it on and it's filled with poison in the fabric and it scalds his skin and he can't get it off. It's adhered to him and he's in agony being burned. And then he's begging people, please kill me, put me out of my misery, help me. Well, everyone loves him and admires him, so no one will do it. He's begging them. So finally his nephew agrees, I will put you out of your misery. And just as he gets ready to do it, Zeus comes down and transports Heracles up to Mount Olympus to live immortally with the other Greek gods. So he finished this and he was rewarded, but not in the way that he wanted to be rewarded. But maybe this story shows us that even though we're mortal people, we can face challenges, maybe not as dangerous as challenges, but we can face challenges and overcome them every day. But across the globe, in a very different culture, a very different hero walks a very similar path. This is the story of Qi Li and the serpent. And this hero story dates back to the Qin dynasty in 221 through 207 BC in China. This story is unusual because Qi Li is a female hero. And this story involves a giant serpent, like a dragon. And this is a water god that actually is connected to the fertility of the land. And Unfortunately, the serpent demands human sacrifices to keep doing this work. Now, typically, women were sacrificed in very agricultural societies. Men were considered less expendable than women because men could work in the fields and often carried on the family name. So in this case, in the first case, with Chi Li, there's this serpent terrorizing the whole kingdom. The king sends his warriors, but even the bravest warriors can't kill him, can't kill the serpent. They either get killed in the process or run away in terror. So they have to find a young woman to sacrifice. So Chi Li looks around. She says, I will volunteer for this. The reason why is because she felt her family had 6 daughters and no sons, and they were very, very poor. She said, that's a lot of mouths for them to feed. They really can't afford us. So she decides to volunteer, save the kingdom from this peril, and help her family in the process. The family is very upset. They love her. They don't want her to do it. But she does anyway go, and she volunteers to the officials. But she said, I'll do it, saving them from drafting somebody, but on one condition. I should be allowed to bring a serpent hound, a dog, a sword, and I want the freedom to use both when I face the serpent. And they were like, sure, no problem. Even their bravest warriors were defeated. They weren't worried. And so she leaves her home, leaves that stage 1 of departure, and goes to the unfamiliar place of the road of trials. They deliver her to the mountain where the serpent lives. She pulls out of her pocket 3 rice balls, and she lays them in front of the cave where the serpent was. This giant serpent slithers out, and she sees this ferocious beast, and she says, oh my gosh, she freezes in panic. And then she says to herself, if I freeze and don't take action, I'm going to be killed. I have to at least try to survive. So she does. As soon as the serpent opens his giant mouth and starts to grab the rice ball, she releases the dog, who jumps up and grabs the serpent by the throat. At that point, she jumps on its back, and she takes the sword and she's plunging it into the serpent. Eventually, the serpent dies and falls to the ground, ending her road of trials. Now she goes back home and begins the 3rd stage of the hero's journey, the return home. She gets home, and news of her success is astounding. It spreads quickly throughout the entire kingdom. And the king hears about it, and he is so impressed by her bravery and her intelligence that he offers her a chance to become his bride, his wife, his queen. And she says, okay, but remember, she's not a passive person. She takes a stand. But you have to allow my entire family to come and live in the palace with us. He agrees, they get married, and now she's made her life better for her family and for the entire kingdom, saving them from being tortured by the serpent. So as you can see, we very much enjoy these hero stories all across the world, in all different cultures, from people who've never even talked to each other and yet have almost the same path line that their heroes walk. We still enjoy these stories today. Even, in fact, in stories like Luke Skywalker and Harry Potter, they've traveled these same general plot lines, almost word for word, phase by phase. But these stories appeal powerfully to something in our human soul. Maybe one of us will be the next one to stand up when we need to, become that elusive hero when needed. Maybe one of you will be the next hero whose exploits we celebrate and retell for centuries. Will you be our next hero? Thank you so much.